Hello and welcome to Deliberately Creative. I'm Stephanie and I want to welcome you to the fun game of rock hiding. Now, you can't hide the rock until after you've painted it, because how would anybody know that it was a rock that was hidden unless there was something on it? So I have a fast, fun, and easy project for you to get started with painting rocks to hide for fun. Let's get started. I'm glad you're joining me here. This is going to be a fun, fast little project. I have a dirty cup, and in this dirty cup I have Artist Loft White that was mixed with Floetrol and Golden High Flow Acrylic mixed with Floetrol. The recipes are down below in the more information box. Then there is this beautiful iridescent orange-yellow PBO Studio Acrylic, and it was mixed with Liquitex Pouring Medium and Floetrol. These are all leftover paints from another project, and it's just tiny amounts. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to swirl this just a tiny bit. I'm hoping that this ends up looking sort of like feathers. And to get that, I think what I'm going to do is really just sort of do that kind of pour like people are doing. Oh, wow. Oh, that's just pretty. Let's see if we can catch some of that, though. Yep, I'm getting cells, but that's okay because it's little. Okay, now before I go too far, I want to save a little bit of this paint. So I want to get his orange tummy on. And I tried to level this out as much as I could, but you know, it's a little rock, and it's a very hard thing to get a little rock to be level. So I'm going to let that pour across, and let's see, maybe I can get this to lift up just a smidge. There we go. How's that? You just sort of level things out as you can. Now right now that doesn't look much like a little bird or his tummy, but there's going to be a little bit more paint poured on these edges here to create his little wings, I think. I'm just enjoying watching the paint pour. Now there's a group in my town called Vancouverrocks, and they are on Facebook. So I decided I was going to join up with them and paint some rocks and go and hide them in my neighborhood. Or in my town. I live very close to downtown, so it's probably, these rocks are probably going to end up downtown. Now, I want a bit more of this blue. I'm going to do sort of a wing, so I'm going to go like that. Maybe I'll do that. I'll just have his wing be over on this side, and the little bird is actually going to be his face is over here, his wing is right here, his tummy is right there. So maybe I'll go ahead and put just a little bit more of this bright orange on here. I'm just going to sort of let that drip down. And now I am not going to touch this anymore because my last time I did it, I touched it too soon and I dropped it because it was still slippery. I was trying to lift it up so that it wasn't getting all that paint stuck to the bottom, but I think I will just trim it off when it's all dry. If you're enjoying this, go ahead and click that subscribe button and meet me back here as soon as it's dry, we're going to paint a little beak and an eye, and he'll be all done and ready to place out in public. All right, so here we are. The rock is dry. Look at that pretty shiny tummy, because that is his tummy. His beak will be right about here, and his eye is going to be over here. It's just going to be a sweet little chubby bird. Now, somebody asked me before I get started here, is there a lot of pour off and waste? Well, this was the stand it was on, and when I pulled it up off of my Teflon sheet, this is like an ironing sheet or craft sheet, there's this little bit of paint right here and a little bit of this paint here. I've been finding that the paint doesn't work as well for skins, one, on this Teflon sheet because it has sort of a woven texture, and two, with the Floetrol because it's not as elastic as the pouring medium. But there's hardly any, this is not very thick, you see. So there's hardly any waste on this one. We're going to do the painting. We're using the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic White and Artist Loft Mars Black and Brilliant Yellow. These are all straight from the craft store, easy to find. I'm going to use just a piece of freezer paper as my palette. I'm not going to use hardly anything, but I do need to put out enough so that you can see that I have paint out. And then the yellow I have opened. And again, that's way more paint than I'm going to need. I'm actually wasting more doing this. But I want you to see what I do. And then the Flow White. Now, the Artist Loft paints are, in general, very soft. And they are a student grade paint, so they are not as opaque. Now we're going to zoom in. Before anybody asks, I'll tell you. This rock is about 2.5 inches tall. From there to there, it's about almost 2.5. It's not quite, but pretty close. And it is about, I'll just set it right on top, 2 inches across. There we go. So I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet, and then I'm going to dry it off just a bit. We've got the brush damp. This is a little ruby satin silver round, and it's a 2. It's a ruby satin silver 2. And I'm using the Artist Loft White. And now his little beak, because he's in profile, we're really only going to see about half of his beak. So I'm making kind of an S shape. And the reason why I'm doing it in white first is that way when the white is dry, it will make the, you can see a little bit better. So I'm just taking it kind of around. I'm not going to do it all the way onto the back. That's what the back looks like right now. I'm going to paint the back all black, and then I will put a little label on there so that I can tell people what this rock is all about. And now, the corner of his beak, I'm going to come back and up just a bit, and I'm going to make a white dot where his eye is going to go. And I'm doing a white dot because I want the paint to be more opaque. Now the black does tend to be opaque, but this way I can paint my black on and leave a little white spot. See? You can see how you can actually kind of see those brush strokes there. That's because it's not very opaque. It's quite warm in here, so it's going to dry fairly quickly. I'm going to put a little bit more white on his beak. You see how I've had to put a little second coat on there just to make sure that it's opaque. And that's it. As easy as that. So now I'll rinse out my brush just real quickly with blow dryer. And that dried that nice and quickly because it was such a little amount of paint. I'm going to go ahead and take the yellow, but I want a tiny touch of black in it to kind of gray it down. And I know that looks like it's a mucky, kind of greeny green. But that way when I put the bright yellow on it, it will actually show up really well. And then this will have some shadow. Funny little things that you can do. And then I'm going to take some of that bright yellow. And this is, this is sort of fiddly detail-y work, which is kind of fun. I like the details. It's hard to talk when you're doing details, though. And now this yellow here was still mixed with some. Of the black. I didn't clean my brush. So that makes it still have a bit of that black in it, just to gray it down. Now I'm rinsing my brush really, really well. My water is still clean because I haven't hardly used it yet. And then I'm tapping the water off of the brush, and I'm making sure that there's no little beads of water on the ferrule, that silvery bit. There we go. And now I'm going to move over to the other side of my yellow and get some of that bright yellow. And I'm leaning it against this little container to give me something to hold on to, since it's a small rock, And we're going highlight, highlight. This is going to take a couple coats because this is a very inexpensive student grade paint. Oh, there we go. Maybe if I go on a little thicker. But it's just, this is part of doing these rocks, is that they're fun and relaxing. And all of this. I love pouring paint. I love painting. So if you'd like to see me do some more poured and then painted on projects, let me know in the comments below. It's coming into that time of year, autumn, where we start thinking of projects that we can do for gifts. These make sweet little gifts. Now I'm going to go ahead into the eye, and what I want to do first is I'm going to go ahead and put his pupil in. And it's going to be a little bit light, a little bit gray, not perfectly. It's a little hard to do this with it farther away from me like it needs to be for the camera. Okay, so now he's got that, but I'm going to flip him upside down while that pupil is drying. I want to give him a little bit of some detail around his eye, just on that white, because what it ends up doing is it gives it sort of a shadow and a highlight, because I'm leaving white also. And now I'm going to take a bit more of that black again, a little heavier application, just sort of dab it in to that pupil. and a little bit of the white and the black to get sort of a gray color. Now if I were doing this for reals, for a real painting, I would be using the blue and white with a little dab of, maybe a little dab of black or a little dab of the orange in it. But because this is just a fun little painting, I'm just getting kind of a shadow under his beak. And it's not quite dark enough. So now I have that there, and then I just want a tiny, tiny, tiny thin line. Thin, thin, thin. And then a little dot right there for his kind of the nostril-y bit on the little bird. I'm going to wipe my brush off on that little paper towel, grab a dab of white to put on 2 little dots. Look at that. Isn't he sweet? And I think I'm going to make a little white highlight right here for his shoulder. I don't want it to be quite so gloppy. I'm just going to give him a little highlight right here, sort of following the line of some of the poured paint. See how that poured paint goes kind of in a bit of a line here? And then I think I'll just give it some little detail-y details. Give him a cap on his shoulder. That's what I'm going to do. And now I'm working upside down right here so that it's right side up to the camera. That's tricky. That's really tricky. I don't want this to be totally obvious there. I want his shoulder to be cute. And maybe just a few little spots for the feathers on his wing. Just like that. All right, so I know that people are going to ask. So I went ahead and there's the back. It's just painted with, well, I set it down a little too soon. I'll touch up that little bit of black here. Just take a bit of, there we go. See, I just painted the back black and I'm going to let it dry. If I find my spray varnish, that's what I will use. Spread brush-on varnishes. It can make your paint run, and that's not very fun when you've worked so hard to make such a cute little guy. There you go. It's going to get a couple coats of a spray varnish. I'm going to just grab my silver Sharpie or a just cut a label and glue it on the back and spray it with the varnish also, and then go and hide him. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will click that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your friends that enjoy painting rocks or enjoy pouring paint. It's a lot of fun for everyone. Look at all the fun texture in this little guy. Leave me a comment, let me know, are there other things you would like to see me try to do on rocks with poured paint and a little bit of detail painting. Remember, go out, do something creative, take care of yourself so you can take care of those around you. And I hope to see you back here again really soon. Bye-bye.